Hello, I am aware I have the lights shining in the back of my head, so you might not be able to see me, but hope you can hear me. We're going to do 4.8 Euthanasia Christianity and 4.7 Euthanasia Buddhism. So you should have a piece of paper that looks like this on an A3, and luckily enough, I have the same, but I have it with all the answers on. So I'm going to go through the answers now, so you can listen in. I'll try and speak slowly, so you can listen in and write the answers down, and that should give you a good view of what euthanasia before you listen. So the first question is, what does eu and thanatos mean? And eu and thanatos, eu means good, and thanatos means death, and it's Greek. And that means, the next question, what does euthanasia means? It basically means a good or gentle death. And the third question in that little section of task 1 is, what is the intention when carrying out euthanasia? And the intention is to end someone's life who is in pain or are suffering. So euthanasia is not meant to be murder, it's meant to be done for good reasons. Task 2, define the terms, and it's quite interesting that there's 3 terms in terms of types. There used to only be 2, but now it's split up to 3. This is probably more helpful actually. The first one is voluntary euthanasia, and that's when the patient asks to be euthanized, asks a second person to euthanize them. And the non-voluntary euthanasia, that is also when a second person in someone's life, but they are in a coma. The patient is in a coma, so cannot say. In the first station, voluntary euthanasia, they consented. But in the second one here, with non-voluntary euthanasia, they are in a coma and can't speak. In the third one, it's involuntary, and that is where a person can speak, but isn't asked, and then they're euthanized anyway. That's involuntarily. So in all 3 situations, a doctor does something to a patient. The first time they're asked, second time they're not asked because of coma, and the third time they're not asked and they might not like it. And that leads to the next question, task 3. Can you explain the emojis by these terms for the types? Why is the patient happy, sad, and different? And the first one is happy, because that's what he wanted. He wanted his life to be ended. The second was indifferent, because he was in a coma and could not actually say. And the third one is a very sad face, because it's not what he wanted. He did not want to die. The next 2 is active and passive euthanasia. That has to do with the method of being euthanized. And the active euthanasia is the doctor does something actively. He might put a needle in his arm with some poison. He might do some other things to end his life. So you actually do something. You stick something in the person or put some pills down his throat or whatever you do. You do something actually. Passive is where you withhold treatment. So for instance, you will stop feeding a person, or you will not do an operation which is needed. So you withhold things. So active, you do things to him, and with passive, you withhold things. And task 4, what's the difference in active and passive euthanasia? Well, as I said, in active euthanasia, you do something, and in passive, you withhold something. Task 5, which is in the second column, it says, if a person is not resuscitated after heart attack, is that a case of active or passive euthanasia? And that is active euthanasia. Sorry. Oh, that is passive euthanasia. I even made it bold for you. It is passive euthanasia because you're withholding something. You could do something, but you treat not to. So it is passive euthanasia because you do not resuscitate after heart attack. Task 7. In 2015, the members of Parliament rejected the plans for right to die law. How many were in favour of changing laws? And that was 118. And how many were against changing law? And that was 330. And I record this in 2025, and we just had a new ruling. And this new ruling was that it was actually in favour of changing law. So as I'm speaking this, the laws are being changed. And you can see 118, 330 are now in favour. It is dramatically how the view of euthanasia has changed in these past 10 years. Christians, however, are not mainly for euthanasia. They are against euthanasia. And I said give 3 reasons for it. And the reason I have written up here is, first of all, number 1, you're interfering with God's plan, where in Job 1:21 it says God gives and takes life away. 2, it is seen as murder, and in the Old Testament, Exodus 20:18 says, "Thou shalt not kill." And 3, it's really open to abuse, and that means that someone can force grandma to say she wanted to have life ended to save the money for the grandchildren. And then I also written a 4th one is it's also against sanctity of life, that all life is holy, set apart, special, and matters to God. So there's lots of reasons there why Christians are mostly against euthanasia. Because as in number 8, what's an alternative to euthanasia? An alternative to euthanasia is a hospice. A hospice is a hospital where you don't come out of, you don't get any treatment to get better, but you just looked after so that your last days are nice and gentle. That's a hospice. So you're meant to die in hospice, but you're meant to die in hospice with non-frightening and non-problematic. Task 9. Some Christians are for euthanasia. Would you believe it? Finish the sentence and says, some of us Christians support euthanasia in some circumstances, and it can be the most loving thing to do. And that is what Christians, Jesus always says, the most loving thing to do. But that's what they think is the most loving thing to do. Others would, of course, say that hospice would be more loving. But there you are. Difficult to argue. And then we're going to go to euthanasia for Buddhism, page 104 and 105. And Buddhists do not have a clear view on euthanasia. They are for and against. I would, however, say that I think looking at these 5 reasons here, I think that they stack up. I think it stacks up actually against euthanasia, but that's up to you to decide. The first one is, it says, would the 5 moral precepts make a Buddhist be for or against euthanasia? And that is actually against. And explain, it says, because the 5 moral precepts says you should not kill or harm. So that's clearly against. The second question, however, is the opposite, because it would adhere a personal choice make Buddhist for or against. And they say it's for, because it says if they have a clear mind and they are not, and if they're free, if they have a clear mind and free, then a Buddhist should be able to do whatever they want to. So we have 1 against, 1 for. The next one is with the idea of karma, rebirth and suffering, make a Buddhist for or against euthanasia, and they'll make it against. And the reason for that is that the person euthanized the person euthanizing and the person being euthanized could both suffer the consequences with bad karma after having done an unskillful activity. So the person being euthanized is being stopped, has his consciousness been stopped naturally, and might have to pay for that in the next life. And the person euthanizing him, because he goes against the first moral precept, also can receive bad karma. So therefore they can both end up suffering next life. So number C is against. D says, what about compassion? And that is, of course, that is both for and against. So it's for and against. It's for because it can be the most compassionate thing to end someone's life. A little bit like the Christians who says that it's the most loving thing. And compassion, of course, is karuna. But it can also be against, because it might not be so compassionate if you end up interfering with their karma, and then they might end up being reborn in the next life something worse. So it might seem like compassion, but it might not be. So that's why D is for and against. And then E is also for and against. It says, would the state of mind make a Buddhist be for or against euthanasia? and it's for and against. It's for if it's done quickly and if it's done peacefully. And the Dalai Lama, I'll just add to this here. I know my box is not very big, but Dalai Lama says that he will say yes to euthanasia if it is non-voluntarily, which means it's in a coma, person is a coma, then it's done quick and quick, then it's fine. But they'll also be against it because before you euthanize, you'll often be scared, and that means your state of mind can be a panic and terror, and then because your state of mind before you're born, before your died is painful and scared, then your consciousness will immediately be reborn in that state. So that's why it is for and against. So there you have the first one is against, then for, then against, and then for and against, for and against. So that kind of makes 1, 2, 3 against, and 1, 2, 4. So we have 2 halves in each. So I would say it's a 2-3 split. I think the Buddhists are mainly against euthanasia. And that's it. Thank you very much. Bye bye.